How fast can a child learn a musical instrument compared to an adult? How fast can they learn a second or third language? They learn fast, right? Because why? How many people you hear a song and they'll take you back to when you're a child? Raise your hand. How many people it's an out of song, but maybe it's a fragrance or a food that will take you back decades because information combined with emotion became a long-term memory, right? Because we're not logical. We don't do things logically all the time. We do things emotionally, right? Because we're not logical. We're biological. Everyone wants to write this down. All learning is state dependent. That the emotional state that you feel when you're learning something gets anchored to the learning. Does that make sense, by the way? What was the state that you felt back in school board? And the other class? The other half of the class is like confused right now on a scale of 0 to 10. What's boredom? 0. Anything times 0 becomes what 0? And that's why a lot of people don't remember what they learned. It's the emotional state. Does that make sense? We said that children are the fastest learners, right? That they have this curiosity and they play all the time. Now it's been shown in science, the research by playing more actually creates neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. What's neurogenesis? New growth, new brain cells. How many people like the idea of creating more new brain cells? What about neuroplasticity? What does that mean? More connections. So intelligence, in a way, is not necessarily like Einstein didn't have a bigger brain than anyone here. But in certain areas of his brain, he had highly connectedness. He did these thought experiments where he put himself in these brainwave states, specifically theta state. That's the state that you're in when you shower. That's the theta state. That's a relaxed state of creativity. You're inspired, you come up with new ideas, new things come out of you, right? And so he had more connections in certain areas, and so you could promote that by playing more. We live in an age where it's not your muscle power, it's more your mind power. Faster you can learn. Certainly the faster you could earn, but not just financially. In all the areas of your life, I remember recently, I got to introduce 2 of my modern-day superheroes. It was Stan Lee, and we're going to dinner. I remember asking Stan, I was like, I have to know you. You've created all these incredible superheroes. Who's your favorite? And he looks at me without a blanket. He's like, Iron Man, and then he's like, Jim, who's your favorite superhero? He's like, Spider-Man. And without a pause, he says, with great power comes the opposite. Is also true. With great responsibility comes great power. When you take responsibility for something, you have great power to change things. It transforms things to make things better. Information combined with emotion becomes a long-term memory, right? The state that you learn something and the mood and the feelings that you learn something in gets attached to what you want to learn. I'm going to give you 6 keys to learn anything faster. You can write these down. I want you to remember be fast, be fast. 6 keys to learn any subject or skill faster. So the B in be fast stands for believe, because if you believe you can or believe you can either way, either way you're right, all behavior is belief driven. How many people here talking about memory because memory forgetting is a state? A lot of people say, oh, I have a bad memory, right? They always like I have memory, or I have focus, or I don't have focus, or I have creativity. I don't have creativity. I want you to scrap that. Creativity is not something you have, it's something you do. Focus is not something you have. Focus is something you do. Memory is not something you have, it's something you do. There's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's just a trained memory and an untrained memory. Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is a program. It will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet, because you programmed your supercomputer. Your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. Your brain cycles through different brain waves. Beta is when you're most awake. You're in beta, most of you right now. Delta is when you're asleep. Theta is right above delta. That's the state of creativity we talked about in between theta and beta. When you're most awake is this state called alpha. It's a state you go in when you meditate, states you go into when you do deep breathe with breathing state. You're also in when you watch television. Alpha state is a great state to learn in, though there is no learning without remembering. So B is believe, you can't believe you can't. Now the EE, I'm going to go through these really fast, is exercise. And what I mean by this is, I mean physical exercise, because your brain, primarily the primary function of your brain is to control your movement. As your body moves, your brain groups. If you want to learn any subject or skill, faster the F is to forget. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people don't learn faster because they feel like they know it already, right? So you want to forget about anything else than what you're learning here, temporarily. The AA in FAST stands for active. Active. You take notes, you ask questions, you participate in it. The S in FAST stands for state. That. All learning is state dependent. I never want to learn in a bored state, right? Most people when they read, they're in a bored state, so control your state. Finally, the T in FAST and B FAST stands for teach. Teach you, learn with the intention of teaching it to somebody else. If you had to teach this to somebody, when you got back home, your team, your family, your friends, would you learn it differently? Yes or yes, would your focus be better? Yes, right, so. You learn with the intention of teaching to somebody else, because when you teach something, you get to learn it twice. Let me close with this. When I got home, there was a package waiting for me. I opened up, I don't know if you could put this the slide on please. I open it up and there's this photograph. There's a photograph of me and the entire cast of X-Men, and even better than Halle Berry and Jennifer Lawrence. Everything that's on there was the note from the chairman. It said, "This, Jim, thank you so much for sharing your superpowers with all of us. I know you've been looking for your superhero school since you were a kid. Here's your class photo." So my question for you is this. If you could go back to that child inside of you, that younger self, and right now, tell them something that they need to hear, what would that be? And if you were to go in the future, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead, in the future, I believe you have wisdom inside of you. I believe you have greatness inside of you. If you were to project 10 years ahead of time and look back on this day right now, what does your current self need to hear from your future self? I have a quote that I get quoted on more than anything. Else it talks about an egg and stress, that your egg is like your life. That if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends, but if it's broken by an inside force, life begins, and all great things begin on the inside. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this and like the video if you liked it.